Hey, everybody. Dr. Mark here. Welcome to another office hours. Today, I want to talk something sciencey for us nutrition coaches, personal trainers, all that type of stuff. For the longest time, for as long as I've been around, there's always been the old adage you can't out train a bad diet. What does this mean? Is it possible? Can you actually? And ultimately, what is the most important thing? Does it come down to, especially when you're looking to improve your health, body composition, lose some fat, gain muscle? Is it nutrition, or is it exercise and resistance training? Like, what is the most important thing? Today, I want to talk all about that and dive into that concept. I was walking this morning, listening to an ebook an audible book. What is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Audio book. My second time through listening to The Psychology of Money. You guys heard of this book? Morgan Housel. He's got a few bestsellers, but that might be honestly one of my favorite books of all time. It's all about, honestly, I think he summarizes the last 100 years of finance and how people approach money and investing and financial health, wealth, and quote unquote being rich. And it's an amazing book. And he was talking all about how investors will typically they'll work so hard, especially like stock market brokers, investors, hedge fund managers, like people with like a lot of at stake for investing. They'll invest so much time and energy to trying to improve their returns to like a tenth of percent, right? They'll put so much energy into that. When in reality, there's so much that they could do to improve their finances by just like removing the bloat from their expenses. And it really got me thinking. Hi, Emily. Thanks for tuning in. Um, it really got me thinking about this dynamic between um, calories coming in and what you eat and calories coming out and through you move, and how historically we've kind of always looked at them as competing things, and where you should focus your energy. This is something that is definitely my mind has changed on a bit as I've been in this field, um, and learned more. Hey, Coach James, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's an important topic because I know so much of us think about this stuff, right? And I know as nutrition coaches, we obviously are biased at the fact that we know the importance of nutrition, especially when it comes down to the energy our food provides, um, and the impact it has on people. And it kind of just makes you wonder about like what is the most important thing. Obviously, disclaimer, they're both important. But for the majority of people, like, can you out train a bad diet? Can you exercise, and boost your energy expenditure to the point where it doesn't matter what you eat? Many people have argued this point and say that you can't. I think for me as a coach, it being in this industry, as a like from a practical perspective, most people would be better served to focus on what they're consuming and their energy intake than thinking about just boosting it through exercise. The magnitude of the difference between these two things and the impact that you can create. Remember, keep in mind that like if we look at Canadian exercise guidelines for a second, which I think are not all that different from North American guidelines and American guidelines, and probably across the developed world, most people should be exercising 150 minutes per week. If you think about how many calories you can burn, let's say like you're doing 30 minutes of like steady state cardio at medium intensity, like 110 120 heart rate, you're probably burning like 100 to 150 calories. Of course, you lift weights, you're going to have some of that like post oxygen consumption that'll boost your metabolism and burn a bit more calories through time afterwards. But you do that over 150 minutes, so like times 5, we're talking about like 1,000, 1,500 calories per week for most people, and that's if they follow the exercise guidelines, which many people don't, right? Or can't like consistently adhere to. So if they have weight loss goals, I mean, they'd be the magnitude of which you can create an imbalance, which needs to happen for weight loss, is going to be so much stronger coming from the nutrition side of things, because we know how quickly like a handful of almonds can boost someone's food intake or calorie intake by 200 calories without them really even knowing it. And that's the magnitude of things. So when we start to think about like, if at its simplest version, weight loss is an energy problem, right? It does mean that and require that you consistently be consuming more or less energy than you're burning, then we'd be much better, served to focus on the nutrition side of things, and especially like, for lack of a better word, clean up what we're doing, and address the low hanging fruit around like, where are some calories that we don't need to be consuming? Liquid calories, heavily processed foods, foods that put us in a position to overeat, um, anything that's like a combination of, when it's highly processed, like a combination of higher fat and higher carb, right? Like super palatable foods. Like we start focusing on reducing those and increasing the amount of like non-processed foods we're eating, single ingredient foods, higher protein fruit foods, fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as like just fruits and vegetables in general, we start to see that like the magnitude of what we can do in this calorie imbalance is going to be so much higher on the nutrition side of things, which is why for the longest time people have said you can't out exercise a bad diet, right? Because you can burn calories in that moment and do enough of it to impact this balance, but you can quickly erase that through what you eat, which is why for so many people, nutrition is the answer, and working with a nutrition coach is the answer, right? Like super important that they do that and focus on that way. With that being said, you get to a point in your health and fitness journey, and if you're managing the nutrition side of things, I know personally, as someone that like, I consider myself an expert in nutrition, and I train and exercise almost every day. Mostly like resistance training and not too much cardio, although that's changed a little bit recently as I, move past my mid 30s here. Most of you don't know how old I am. Turning 37 this year in November. Um, just things are becoming more important that way. Focusing on like my cardiovascular health and staying leaner, which is the other thing, is that like, okay, I'm an expert in nutrition. I do exercise, but not a crazy amount. I wouldn't consider myself super active because I sit down and talk to you guys most of the week. But for the longest time, like I just thought nutrition was the only thing that mattered, right? And I swung so far in the other direction. Sorry, there's a fruit fly and I wanted to get it, but I didn't. I think he's gone. Swung so far in the other direction that I was only focusing on the nutrition side of things. And there comes a point where you can only reduce your energy intake and your calories so much that it'll, number one, it won't crash your metabolism or anything like that because it doesn't work. Your metabolism and your BMR, like your actual energy burn through normal physical processes, doesn't change all that much. But it will reduce your energy expenditure in terms of how much you move, right? The more calories you consume on a regular basis, the more your body wants to stay in that sweet spot of like starting to burn off those calories. So you do more spontaneous physical movements. You also have better performance when you are exercising. So it becomes a point where like, if you just reduce this on this side to the point where like you really can't bring it down anymore, there's diminishing returns. Like it gets to the point where you'd be better served being more physically active and moving more, both truly in an exercise capacity, but also from um, just like a flat out um, spontaneous physical movement and neat and that kind of stuff component, that'll really help your net calorie balance. Like it's a big amount, even if it's just 100 calories, because it gets to a point where you've controlled so much on this side that there's no wiggle room. There's no more, like, you don't have anywhere to go. The only place to go um, is going to be starting to affect this side of things. That's what I personally have found. And it does get to the point where it's like, if you're really prioritizing physical activity and doing and staying active and taking your steps from where some people are like, maybe 5,000 steps a day to bring it up to 15,000. You have the additional calories that you're burning through that actual exercise, but you also, and this is probably the most important point, is the actual psychological component of that change. I don't know many people that that eat while they're walking. Um, you're less likely to overeat because you're, busier with other things, that type of stuff, as well as, you know, the more health promoting decisions you make from a psychological perspective, in my experience at least, I found that, man, people just like they're more likely to stick to the overall things that they need to be doing to improve their health, right? I can't find a person that exercises first thing in the morning, um, then make sure they get X amount of steps by noon that feels as if they want to go off their nutrition plan and completely overeat and those type of things. It's like this stuff starts to like bake into the stuff you're doing and the person you become and all that stuff. So in many ways, the more that I think about this, it's like you can't out exercise a poor diet in the sense that energy balance isn't the only thing that improves our overall health, right? Like where those calories come from and the other nutrients that they contain in the foods that we eat, obviously are going to improve our overall health. But to a certain extent, once you have the nutrition side of things down, you'd be better served to increase your energy expenditure by being more active, because that's what's going to help you get to the next level. So when I started to think about these things, it's more like from a beginner perspective, nutrition, without a doubt, you're going to have a much bigger impact on the process of improving your health by watching what you eat and making sure you're still doing these things, but just flat out lifting some weights and doing some stuff you enjoy. But really focusing on where are the things that I can remove from my diet that are going to be a huge impact, because so many of us have them, right? If you're drinking normal pop and stuff, like that stuff adds up. If you're eating heavily processed foods, not enough protein, it's like there's tons of calories over here that can be managed, and better foods you can eat to consume your, less calories. But it gets to a certain point where, without a doubt, you'd be better served to increase the exercise that you're doing through both spontaneous physical movement and just being more active overall, because that's going to give you a bigger return, a bigger bang for your buck, as you become more advanced and the more that you put into this process. That's what I found through time. I remember, man, thinking that like, hey, being an expert in nutrition, I have this side of things down, but I wouldn't be super active. In the winter, a Canadian winter, I'd be burning or taking less than 2,000 steps a day and not being super active. And that stuff really starts to add up in terms of it's detrimental on the amount of calories you burn overall and the impact on your overall health and your body composition, without a doubt. That's what I found through this process, is that at a certain point, you can truly out exercise a bad diet. I've done several YouTube videos on walking and non-exercise adaptive thermogenesis or activity thermogenesis. Just steps, things that is not truly considered exercise, and the impact that it has on your body comp. I've had people like, guests on. Dean Guido, the Walk More King, takes 20,000 steps every day, does some jujitsu, doesn't lift weights anymore, and has pretty similar body composition, if not better, to what he did at his at his peak. This type of movement-based stuff does have a big impact. I mean, it goes beyond the actual just energy burn as well. When you're talking about moving more, helps digestion, probably helps, insulin sensitivity in terms of, you're burning off some of that energy more immediately. Those type of things. It's a huge impact. So those are my thoughts. Can you out exercise a bad diet or a poor diet? No, you can't, but you may be able to as you become more advanced. What do you guys think about these things? Any question about this stuff? How to apply it to yourself? How to apply it to clients? If you're tuning into the live stream and you're enjoying what you're hearing, maybe you're here for the first time or, relatively new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Hitting the like also, push these things, this concept and this video even further. So I would love it if you do that. If you're tuning in, say hi, drop in, let me know where you're from. I'd love to raffle off another copy of the book. We did it a few weeks ago and it went over well. If you haven't checked out my book yet, From Passion to Profit, I'm going to drop the link in the actual chat here and check it out. Getting some reviews coming in. I know my friends Emily and James have both purchased the book, and I think James has read all the way through it. I think Emily would be pretty close as well. If you guys are in the actual, if you're in the chat still and listening along, you want to tell people how you found the book, that would be great. But I'd love to do another raffle if you guys are game. Let me know. Maybe what I'll do for this one, if you're watching the replay, I'm going to include you in the raffle as well. If you're watching live, amazing. Thank you, James. That's perfect. James and Emily, I know you guys already bought the book. I'll find a way to make it worth your while for tuning in here and supporting the channel and tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you're watching live, and I have a list of people going right now, number one, you got to let me know that you're watching. So drop a comment right now. I got Emily, who's going to have two. You have 2 entries, and James will also have 2 entries. If anyone else is watching live, drop it in the comments. Tell me, just say hi, say where you're from, say something at all, and I will. I'll put you in this raffle with 2 entries, and then for anyone else watching the replay, just drop a comment. Tell me what you think about this dynamic. Tell me if you think you can out exercise a bad diet, what you found in your experience, those type of things. And we will, I'll do the raffle at a later date. You'll see a comment in here. I'll do a Loom video. I'll put it in there and I'll make it worth your while if you've already purchased the book, and let me know if you've already purchased the book as well. Outside of that, guys, do you guys have any general questions? There was also someone from a few weeks back that won a book. I'd have to go back through the actual recording, but I can't find you unless you reach out to me. So send me an email at marc, also with the C, at drmarkmethod.com, and I'll make sure I get that over to you because I need some contact info and an address and all those things. Outside of that, guys, if that's it for today, those are my thoughts on if you can out exercise a bad diet. Have a good weekend. If there's anything else, let me know, and we'll go from there. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.